This is Glow in the Dark Radio. The science fiction podcast with original independent science fiction written and performed by Mike Luoma, with music by Kevin MacLeod. The Vatican Assassin Trilogy and The Adventures of Alibi Jones by Mike Luoma are available in ebook, trade paperback, and audiobook wherever you find your books online. Get links and details at glowinthedarkradio.com. This is the Science Fiction Podcast, Glow in the Dark Radio. I'm your host, your writer and reader, Mike Luoma, and I've decided to give you a chapter and a half this week on the show. We did the first half of chapter 13 last week, and I was thinking I'd give you just the second half this week, but as I needed to divide it story-wise, it divided unevenly. And this second half is only about 9 minutes long. And I looked ahead, and chapter 14, the next chapter, is only about 12 minutes long. Plus, I'm going to take next week off for the holiday and my birthday. So, I'm going to give you a chapter and a half today. So we have the second half of chapter 13, and then the somewhat brief chapter 14 on the way. A little over 21 minutes of story. And again, I'm taking Thanksgiving off, so feast on this in the meantime, I suppose. Alibi Jones, Kit the Dakhur, Katie Ramsey, who they just rescued, and Piccolo, who turns out to be a scumbag bounty hunter. They're all now back in the Solar Alliance at Alibi's home on Ceres Central, the station on Ceres. They've shown Alibi's Aunt Anita the evidence the Eldred have returned, but she still seems reluctant to believe them. Katie's also showing some romantic interest in Alibi, or she seems to be. In the second part of chapter 13, Alibi will check in with his boss, the Pope. Alibi works for him in the Mediation Corps, and it's still someone you might remember from the Vatican Assassin Trilogy. And maybe the Pope will believe Alibi about the Eldred returning. The course of action or inaction they decide upon leads directly into the events of chapter 14. So you'll have to listen and find out what happens. We've got a chapter and a half on the way on Glow in the Dark Radio. There's not a lot of book news, but some, and mostly gift suggestions. I'm going to say, if you want to give a unique gift that people probably don't have yet, a book from an independent author, independent publisher, can make a lovely gift. And it doesn't have to be mine, but I do have some that are out there. Some relatively newer ones, like The Ancient World Around Us, finally in print and paperback, available through Amazon. It's available as an ebook as well. I suppose you could give that as an ebook, too. Same is true for the new Star-Lord and the Guardians of the Galaxy, the comic book years, the unofficial comic book history of Star-Lord and the Guardians of the Galaxy. That is out in paperback and ebook. Pretty proud of the way these books have turned out this year. That's true as well of the Adventures of Alibi Jones Chronological Omnibus. Now there is an Alibi Jones graphic novel, for lack of a better word, but it's a compilation of the short stories that have been in all the different issues. And it includes one that's in Always Punch Nazis, Alibi Jones The Legacy. And they've just announced, the folks at Pilot Studios, Ben Ferrari and company, that they're going to be putting out an Always Punch Nazis omnibus volume, which will go out as a Kickstarter starting January 20th. Yes, as someone is sworn in as a new overlord. Yeah. We will be embarking on the Omnibus Kickstarter for Always Punch Nazis. But yes, for the graphic novel, The Adventures of Alibi Jones Chronological Omnibus. That is not yet available at Indie Planet as I'm recording this, but because there's going to be a 2-week lag before I'm back on live, it hopefully will be available at Indie Planet by the time you're listening to this. And if not, it soon will be. I did have somebody wondering about calendars this year. I actually didn't do any calendars this year. I just literally took a year off. You don't want to do the same thing all the time, you know? But of course, all of my books are available in paperback and all make wonderful gifts. Wherever you find paperbacks for sale online, you should be able to find my paperbacks. Barnes & Noble, Amazon, Books A Million, Thrift Books. Walmart even carries my paperbacks. So, well, some of them, not all of them, but some of them. So you can find all of those out there. And if you want more details, just go to my website, glowinthedarkradio.com or mikeluoma.com. We're going to get into Chapter 13, Part 2, and Chapter 14, coming up next on Glow in the Dark Radio.
50 years ago, Mira, humankind's last hope to find new resources, departed the solar system. 7 years into her mission, she disappeared. She has returned. SNR Black, a Sol Federation Marine Corps vessel, is sent to retrieve her from certain destruction in the Kuiper Belt beyond Pluto. What they find will change humankind forever. From Parsec award-winning author Paul E. Cooley, Derelict, Marines, Part 1 of the Derelict Saga, combines military sci-fi, space opera, mystery, and suspense to create a journey you won't forget. Podcast available at shadowpublications.com. Paperback and ebook available from Amazon.com. Some mysteries shouldn't be solved.
Now here's Chapter 13, Part 2 of Alibi Jones on Glow in the Dark Radio. Alibi finds himself standing alone in his living room. The doorbell rings. Piccolo. "Hey, you gonna let me in?" Piccolo calls over the door's intercom. Alibi thinks about it for a minute before he opens the door. Piccolo draws a breath as the door opens, ready to give Alibi a hard time. "Don't!" Alibi warns him, index finger pointing in the air. "Don't say another word. You're welcome to sleep here, but that's all." "Okay, fine," Piccolo mumbles, the fight apparently going out of him. He lays down on the blankets laid out for him on the floor. Alibi curls up on his couch and tries to sleep. Alibi skims across the surface of sleep. He doesn't feel like he settles into a true deep sleep. He hears Piccolo get up and leave during the early morning hours. He gets up and locks and bolts the door behind him. With Piccolo gone, Alibi finds he can finally relax and sleep. He feels like he wakes up a second later, but 3 hours have passed. Katie is already awake, talking to Anita on the comm as Alibi wakes up. On the couch. "The hunter's gone for now, ma'am," Alibi hears Katie say on her end of the conversation. "Oh, he's up. Here, hold on," she tells Anita. "Alibi, your Aunt Anita's on the comm." "Speaker's on. Good morning, Aunt Anita," Alibi mumbles. "Good morning, Alibi. Hold on."
"Good morning, Alibi."
A deep, rich, and resonant man's voice rings out over the comm, his slight Jamaican accent coloring his words. "Your Holiness," Alibi says louder and clearer as he sits up.
"I was speaking to your aunt, and she told me she was about to call you. I asked to remain on the comm."
Pope John Paul IV, Mbeke, tells Alibi.
"We have been asking for your help with mediation assignments, but you've not been available."
"I've been busy, Mbeke," Alibi protests. "Saving lives, uncovering evidence of the Eldred." "You're calling the Pope by his first name?" Katie leans over and asks in a loud whisper.
"Is that the girl Katie?" Mbeke asks. "Anita told me about you, Katie. Good morning."
"Good morning, sir, your Popeness, sir," she says.
"Yes. Well, you hear how he respects his elders, young lady, Mbeke jokes. Well, are you available now, Alibi?
That depends, Alibi says. Doesn't it, Aunt Anita? Her heavy sigh is audible over the comm.
Anita?
Mbeke's voice inquires. Alibi keeps insisting that he's seen living Eldred running around, Mbeke, Anita tells him. He found them serving some mad scientists off on an old Eldred planetoid near Tecta space. He rescued a bunch of kidnap victims from an abandoned Eldred base there that he says wasn't abandoned anymore. We've got footage, Alibi says, breaking in. He hops up off the couch and grabs his wand to send Mbeke the files. Hold on, it's coming back over the comm to you now, Mbeke.
Yes, I am getting something, Mbeke says. Well, look at that. Eldred. They do not look like they used to. These are more primal, he comments.
There's a pause.
I do not like the look of those surroundings. Unspeakable acts have occurred there, have they not?
They have, Mbeke. Pray for those people, Alibi says.
You? Ha ha ha! A self-proclaimed atheist telling me the Pope to pray. Ha 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 ha!
Mbeke laughs. I want to take Aunt Anita, Dr. Krish, and a safe exploratory force back to the base to gather evidence. But I don't think she believes me. Not enough to want to go, anyway.
You didn't gather evidence when you freed the kidnap victims? Mbeke asks.
We couldn't. Not enough to prove our case, evidently. I got that footage, Alibi says, but the Tecta showed up and ran us off. That's why I want to take a force with me, and someone with real authority like Aunt Anita. That, and she's not going to believe me about the Eldred being back until she sees them for herself.
So, you don't believe him about the Eldred, Anita?
Mbeke asks. You know what that means, Mbeke. I can't bring myself to think. She pauses. Has one of them resurfaced? Like Dolome did? I don't see how.
Could another survivor from the ancient enemy have been in suspended animation? Mbeke asks her.
I don't think so, Anita says. Dolome died and the Eldred died with him. If there had been another capsule, another ancient enemy still around, even in suspended animation, they wouldn't have died off, she argues. So how are they here again now? Maybe they didn't all die, Alibi offers. The universe is a big place. I mean, we still don't know the full extent of the old Eldred worlds. Maybe all the Eldred around here died, but not all of them everywhere?
Now that we've once again seen the Eldred, Alibi, maybe you are right, Mbeke says.
No, you weren't there. I was, Anita argues. They were all dead. When Dolome was gone, you could see the life go out of them, every one of the Eldred. Well, they're not dead now, Alibi insists angrily. You thought they were gone. This crazy guy pulling the Tecta's strings sure sounds a lot like your Dolome. Are you sure he's dead? BC insisted he saw him die, Anita says. And Dolome's ship itself was destroyed by the Eldred, who had no idea they were killing themselves in the process. But they did die. They were wiped out, planet after planet. We've all seen the results of that over the years. Plus, this man Masakov doesn't look anything like Dolome. She shakes her head. No, we wouldn't be dealing with the Tecta and their aggression if the Eldred were still around. She stops, sighs audibly over the comm. Her tone changes. You know what? No more arguing with you. I've already decided anyway. Made the arrangements this morning. If you think visiting this planetoid will convince me, then we should go. Really? Alibi can't believe what he's hearing. Really? You're right, Alibi. I won't believe the Eldred are back unless I see it for myself. I just don't want to believe it. I'm sorry, Al, but I do hope you're mistaken, Anita says. We'll leave later today, around 2 o'clock. All right. Why didn't you say so in the first place?
Contrary to what she says, Mbeke pipes in with a chuckle, I think Anita does like to argue.
Mbeke, Anita says in mock anger. I do not. I wasn't sure I was going to go out there until just now.
You see, Mbeke says in triumph, you do like to argue. You can't stop. I would even venture to guess that the very reason you are going on this trip is so that you can win your argument with Alibi.
Anita lets out a frustrated growl. Now you're ganging up on me. Alibi, have your people ready to roll at 2. That's when we're going. Anita out. There is a moment's pause after Anita signs off, and then Mbeke speaks.
I guess I will have to wait a little longer for your mediation services after all, he says to Alibi. Congratulations. You do know that she couldn't have a squadron ready for this afternoon unless she had already called for it last night, right?
Huh. Alibi is surprised. No, I didn't think of that. That she does like to argue.
I think she believes you more than she lets on, Alibi, Mbeke says, but she has always worried she might show you too much favoritism. And, She does like to argue. Mbeke finishes with a laugh.
Thank you, Mbeke. Funny thing is, I don't know if I want to win this argument. I'm not sure I like what it means if I'm right.
I am sure I do not like it, Mbeke tells him. I am too old for another war.
Mbeke signs off. Alibi turns to Katie. I'm going to go, but you don't have to go back there, you know, he tells her. I don't want to force you to return. I want to come with you, she says. I don't trust Piccolo back here by myself. Or Lavalure. You'll be safe here if you want to stay, he reassures her. Aunt Anita has people, security. They'll take care of you. You trying to get rid of me? Katie asks, suddenly turning angry. You don't want me to go, do you? Where's this coming from? Anger issues? Sure I do, but only if you want to go. That sounded convincing, she says, a bitter tone coloring her voice. Piccolo rings the doorbell. Alibi stifles a laugh when he realizes it's the first time he's ever been glad to see the man. Hey, what's up? Piccolo asks, looking from Alibi to the still fuming Katie. We're going back to that planetoid to gather evidence, Alibi tells him. We? Me too? That sounded like a we meaning me too, he says, asking for clarification. Sure, Alibi decides on the spot. That way, you're closer. Great, Piccolo says, but then he darkens. Closer to what? Just closer, Alibi replies mysteriously. Come on, Katie, let's go get some supplies before the trip. Meet us back here at 2 o'clock, Piccolo, ready to go. He turns from Piccolo, looks at Katie, and then heads for the door. Closer? Piccolo asks again, mostly to himself. Friends close, Katie tells him as she walks past him. Do the math. Math, he asks, not following. What the fuck does that mean? She walks away, following Alibi, not saying another word. That's okay there, Katie did, he says to himself. I'm closer to you, and that's all that matters. Chapter 14. Anita commands Alibi's cruiser and leads a small squadron of 10 other safe ships out of Ceres Central that afternoon. Alibi pilots the ship with Kit as his co-pilot. Katie, Piccolo, and Anita ride along on the bridge. 4 safe troopers are also on board for the ride, to provide added security and manpower once they land on the planetoid. I've got a surprise for you, Anita tells Alibi as he pilots the ship out from Ceres Central to a safe transspace jump point. Oh really? He asks. We need to make a quick side trip, she says. We'll meet up with the safe ships at a staging area a short jump away from our destination. Why? He asks her. Where are we going? Rigel 4, she says. There's a sparkle in her eyes. She tells him, we're picking up Krish. No way! How'd you get him to leave his house? I sent him your footage of the possible Eldred, she says, and I told him to stop being such an old fart. Well, even better, Alibi smiles. He punches in the transspace coordinates for Rigel 4. After their quick trip to pick up Krish, they head out for the edge of Tecta space to the staging area near the abandoned Eldred planetoid. Their safe scout ship's initial sweep of the area turns up no nearby Tecta vessels, so they jump all 11 of their ships through transspace and take up positions around the planetoid. No enemy forces appear as Alibi breaks orbit and brings the cruiser down for a landing unmolested. The 10 safe ships array themselves in tight orbits to keep watch over them. Alibi brings the cruiser down in between the underground hangar and the lab building. He points out the stacked pyramid of dead human and Eldred bodies as they fly over. There! Those Eldred on that pile aren't all from 20 years ago, he says, like a tour guide pointing out the gruesome landmark. Oh no. Are those? Anita can't finish. She looks away, back from the viewport. There are people on that pile, too, she says quietly, looking back at the others gathered on the cruiser's bridge. Masakov or Ashimeth or whatever he called himself did some horrible things here, Aunt Anita. Alibi cautions her. You might not want to look inside the lab building. It's a chamber of horrors. I'll decide what I can see and can't see. Thank you, Alibi. Anita snaps rather curtly. I've been dealing with the horrors of war since before you were born. I never thought I would ever see the Eldred again, Krish interrupts, still staring out the viewport. Those are definitely Eldred bodies out there. The question is, are those from 20 years ago or yesterday? Alibi lands the ship near the lab building. They dress in EVA suits and head out of the cruiser into the vacuum of the planetoid's surface. Despite Alibi's warnings, Anita has them head for the lab building. Krish asks to break off on his own to examine the Eldred bodies on the death mound. Anita sends him off with Kit and 2 safeguards
to conduct his own investigation. Alibi, Anita, Katie, and Piccolo head for the lab building. Katie, you might want to stay outside. Alibi tries to warn her off. You don't need to protect me, she says curtly over the comm. I've already seen it. Nothing in there will shock me now. Alibi is still arguing as they enter the airlock. Well, excuse me for trying to spare you guys the most disgusting sights I've ever... Alibi stops short, his last word echoing in their ears as the inner door of the airlock opens on a vast, empty space. Everything is gone. The inside of the building has been cleared out. All that are left are the echoes. Every monitor, every gurney has been removed. All the tanks and tubes and arcane machinery has been taken out. The only clue to the horrors that went on there are stains on the floor and raw wiring hanging from the walls. Alibi wanders into the space, looking around. It's all gone, he says softly as he takes it in. It's okay, Alibi, Anita says, trying to comfort him. I saw the footage. I know this is the same place. I can tell it's been cleaned out. I'm not going to question that. Alibi keeps walking through the giant emptiness. He looks around at the walls. A flash of light on polished metal catches his eye. The manacles are still in place, but broken open now, hanging from the wall. Alibi remembers the giant, drooling, mindless hulk that had been suspended there. He wanders over to where the muscular man had been held in place, strapped to the wall. All that are left are his shattered bindings. It looks like he might have busted out of them. Maybe he took out some tecta before he went down, Alibi says to himself. He walks over to the wall. A strange sensation stops him in his tracks. A feeling of something. He grows aware that Krish is speaking in his ear over the comm. There are fresh bodies here, Krish says, but they are all human. The Eldred bodies still appear to be older. I do not think that the bodies of the ones we shot during the rescue are on this pile, Alibi, Kit says over the comm. I do not see any new Eldred bodies. Damn. Hey, Krish, Alibi calls out, picturing the scene in his mind. Any sign of a really big guy out there on the pile? A big guy? Krish asks, looking for clarification. Alibi stares at the place where the man used to hang. Yeah, maybe 6'2", muscular? Nope. Haven't seen anyone matching that description yet. But we're still looking. You remember that big guy, Kit? Alibi asks. I do, Kit says, but I do not see him out here on the pile. Huh, Alibi wonders, but moves on. Do me a favor, Krish? Test some of those Eldred bodies. See how long they've been dead. You'll see, Alibi insists. I will, Alibi. Just nothing new so far. There are a lot of human remains on top of the pile. Attention, ground unit, we've got company. The voice of the safe commander in orbit echoes in their ears as it rings out over the comm. A wing of Tech-Top fighters just showed up. They're keeping their distance for now. Could be scouts for a larger force, so I'm advising you to wrap it up down there and get back up here so we can head home. Advice noted, Anita replies. Keep me informed of any change in mission status, she orders the commander. Aye, ma'am, he answers. Alibi, we've got to go, she says to him, a note of apology in her voice. Ah, hell, Alibi swears. There's obviously something to this place, or they wouldn't keep trying to chase us off, he insists. True, they have been rather protective. She pauses, looks around the lab space. Of apparently nothing. Krish chimes in over the comm. Found something! A new Eldred body? Alibi asks hopefully. No, sorry, Krish replies, but I think we've got Masakov's body. Kit made the identification. We're going to wrap it up and bring it back for testing. Wrap it up there, then, Anita tells him. Time to go. The dogs are barking at the door. So I heard, Krish agrees. See you back at the ship. We should go, Anita says to the group. I'm sorry, Alibi. He hangs his head. Anita turns and leads them towards the building's airlock. Whoever they are, they're good, Piccolo observes. What the hell does that mean? Alibi asks. Gotta be good to clean out a place like this as fast as they did. Takes a lot of manpower to do it. Quick as they had to. He stops. Alibi walks over to him. You've what? Alibi prods him. I've been part of a clean team before, Piccolo admits. Sometimes you gotta clean an operation out before He stops again. He looks at Anita, looks back at Alibi. Well, you know, before the law shows up and stuff. I saw this place before. Would have taken a lot of people to clean it out like this so quick. Or a lot of Tecta, Anita says. Or Eldred, Alibi insists. He had a lot of them working for him here. Anita doesn't respond. She heads out the open airlock and onto the planet's surface, leading the way back to Alibi's ship. Alibi lags behind the group, looking around the empty building. Her silence speaks volumes. Alibi knows Anita believes there was something here, but he's pretty sure she's not convinced that there were new Eldred running around. She thinks he's been fooled, or simply mistaken. He can almost hear her thinking out loud. It's so obvious. He trails the group as they reach his ship. Krish comes bounding up with Kit and their 2 safe trooper companions trailing, carrying the wrapped-up body of Masikov and a pallet of sample boxes between the 3 of them. "Alibi, could you open the cargo hold for the samples?" Krish asks. "I want to take them back to Rigel 4 for testing." "Sure." Alibi makes his way to the back of the ship to help Kit and the safe officers load their cargo. "Ma'am, we've got more company. The Tekta have showed up in force." The safe commander cuts in over the comm. "Let's get going," Anita says, opening the ship's airlock. "Alibi? In back, loading up. Let the guards finish. You and Kit get up to the bridge. Get us out of here now," Anita says, coldly, methodically. "Everybody else, get on board." "Jeesh!" Piccolo sighs too loudly. "Lock it!" Anita snaps back at him. No one else says another word, as they move quickly to get on board the cruiser. Once back on the bridge, Alibi lifts the ship up off the planetoid to rendezvous with their safe escort. He brings the cruiser over to dock with a safe Stinger ship to drop off their safe personnel. Then they fly free and head back to Solar Alliance space. The safe squadron goes its own way. "Damn it," Anita says to no one in particular, as Alibi begins charging the Transpace engine for the jump back to Rigel 4. "Damn what?" Alibi asks. "I don't like it," she answers. "Why are the Tekta so obsessed with this rock? What are they hiding?" "Don't know," he says with attitude, "since you're letting us get chased away." "I might be curious, but I don't want to start a war," she answers sharply. "Today we keep the peace. I'm sure the Prime Representative will appreciate that." "Sorry," Alibi apologizes, but he's not sure why. Their first Transpace jump takes them to Rigel 4. They drop off Krish and his gruesome cargo as the scientist takes Masikov's body back to his home lab for testing. Once Krish is home, Alibi brings the rest of them back to Ceres Central. After finishing the post-flight checklist, Alibi leaves the bridge and finds Aunt Anita, Katie, Kit, and Piccolo waiting for him outside the cruiser. Everybody looks uncomfortable. "What's going on?" Alibi asks as he approaches. Piccolo shifts uneasily before he speaks. Well, I should be going, I guess," Piccolo stammers out. "Other jobs, work to do, you know." "I see. So, go ahead," Alibi says. "Don't expect a tearful goodbye from me." "You're just going to let him go?" Katie asks, suddenly angry. "He has not done anything except lie repeatedly," Kit points out. "Nothing we can hold him on," Alibi admits. "This sucks," Katie says. She storms off. Anita glares at Alibi and then follows after her. "Katie? Katie, dear, hold on," she calls as she goes after her. Piccolo stares at the fleeing girl, almost looking hungry. "Hey!" Alibi shouts at the man. His head snaps back around to Alibi. "You touch her, I'll kill you. No questions asked. So you better be going to get a new job. This one, her, it's over." "It is over," Piccolo nods. "Too much trouble." He looks down at his feet, glances up at Alibi, and then over at Kit. He shrugs. He turns away and walks off across the Ceres Central port. "I should probably be going as well, Alibi. I should check back with my people," Kit says. "But I have enjoyed your company. You have changed my mind about humans. And I have not killed you yet, have I?" "No, you haven't," Alibi admits. "But what do you mean? You're leaving too?" "I am. There are things back on her to which I must attend. But you can get in touch with me on your wand if you need my help. I would gladly assist you again, should the need arise." "Thanks." Kit gives him contact information. Alibi stores it for easy retrieval on the wand. Kit offers a nod and then turns to go. He walks off through the port. Alibi watches him go. He finds himself standing alone next to his ship. "Huh," he says to himself. "What now?" That was Chapter 14, and we heard Chapter 13, Part 2 of Alibi Jones, the novel, part of the Adventures of Alibi Jones Chronological Omnibus, which we are featuring the audiobook of on our podcast. I'm your host, your writer and reader, Mike Luoma. Hope you enjoyed that big chunk of story. Yes, it turns out Mbeke is still the Pope.
And Anita decided they should all go to the planetoid, including Krish. Nice to have Krish along. Of course, they didn't find much of anything there. The place has been cleaned out. Still, there were some bodies, and that included Masikov. So Krish has the corpse now. He's taken it back to Rigel 4 to test it. The rest of them have returned to Ceres and now have apparently all gone their own way. What now indeed, Alibi? After a week off for the holiday, we'll be back with Chapter 15 of Alibi Jones to find out. A quick recap of book news. I was just suggesting some of my paperbacks as gifts, including the 3 new ones I've got out there. The Ancient World Around Us, now available in paperback. Star-Lord and the Guardians of the Galaxy, The Comic Book Years, an unofficial comic book history. And The Adventures of Alibi Jones, Chronological Omnibus, the new graphic novel compilation of the Alibi Jones adventures. That will be available at Indie Planet, INDY Planet, very soon. If not yet, soon. And it's beautiful. And again, all of my books are available in paperback, pretty much at all the places that sell paperbacks online. And a book from an independent author or an independent publisher makes a lovely gift, don't you think? Doesn't have to be mine. I'm just putting that out there. I hope you have a great holiday. Get something to eat. See the people you want to see. Don't get in any big arguments and enjoy your Thanksgiving weekend. I will be back with you in 2 weeks. The weekend of December 7th. That is all for this time. I'm your host, your writer, and reader, Mike Luoma. Thank you again for listening to Glow in the Dark Radio. Glow in the Dark Radio. This podcast presentation is copyright 2023 by Michael F. Luoma and is protected under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 International License, CC by NCND 4.0. Music by Kevin MacLeod. You can find his work at Incompetech.com. Mike's books are available in ebook, paperback, and audiobook, wherever you find books online. Get links and more details at glowinthedarkradio.com and mikeluoma.com. This has been a presentation of Glow in the Dark Radio.